What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Faithful Phanatics Show live here on DSM-Media's YouTube and Twitter channel. Guys, if you are new to the channel, check us out on Twitter at DSM_Media. There's a link tree in our bio that will take you to every social media platform. We are available on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all that good stuff. But if you guys want to be interactive throughout today's show or any show here on DSM, make sure to check out the DSM-Media-Philadelphia YouTube channel that we are live on right now. Subscribe, turn on notifications for whenever we go live or upload a video here. It is the best spot to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up on the screen with your host. I am one half of them, Dylan Davis. To my right, my faithful co-host, Scotty. We have a Victory Monday, Red October, and Sixers Media Day all packed into one. My man, what is going on this beautiful Monday?
Yes, sir. Jam-packed Monday. We're starting a little bit later in the afternoon today. Kind of give us some time to observe and report on this Sixers Media Day. But yeah, man, you hit the nail on the head. Obviously coming off a big W yesterday, probably a bigger W than what we expected it to be as far as like momentum and the things that had to take place for us to get that W. And then of course the Phillies, man, getting back to that for myself, right? Getting back here over to the main time, the mainland time, East Coast time. So I'll get to watch some Phillies baseball. I'm excited for that. And I'm excited to just kind of give a precursor to the preview, because we're obviously going to do Phillies pregame show tomorrow before the actual start time. But just kind of get your feelings and kind of how you feel the momentum is going into this playoff series with the Marlins division rival, right? So it's going to be an interesting playoff series to start, but exciting time nonetheless. Even if you're down on the Sixers, it's an exciting time because we have not played any basketball yet. So this is the time to be optimistic.
Yeah. Yeah, we love our hypotheticals, right, man?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now, let's start with that 34-31 overtime victory yesterday afternoon off the foot of Jake Elliott, 54-yard field goal to beat the Washington Commanders. The Philadelphia Eagles move to 4-0 on the season. And yesterday was kind of a little bit a mix of the same kind of roller coaster emotion of the previous 3 weeks. Yeah. You walk away, you escape again. And I use the word escape loosely here because, you know, the Eagles, you had a feeling about them pulling this out at home, even when the game went to overtime, but we'll get to all that in a little bit of a second, that roller coaster. But that kind of a win is a win mentality that you have to look forward to as a Philadelphia fan right now, because again, there are lots of teams, the Cincinnati Bengals, right? Dallas last week. There are lots of teams that would love an ugly win right now. And that's what the Eagles are doing. And when the schedule stiffens up shortly, in the next couple of weeks, you're going to look back and be extremely grateful and thankful that they squeaked out these ugly wins. But yesterday was strange, man, because we spent the entire pregame show praising one side of the ball and kind of, I don't know, not being negative, but kind of down on the other side of the ball. And what can they show me? Well, the offense drops 34 points, but Sean Desai and the Eagles defense get torn up by Sam Howell and company. 19 sacks through 3 weeks for Sam Howell. Now, the Eagles D-line was able to get to him in key moments down the stretch of the game, but that first 3 quarters, man, he was sitting back there pretty and was able to dot them up. That last drive, dot them up, right? If not for Reed Blankenship's arm, maybe dots them up in overtime as well with a great throw under pressure. So, you know, you have to tip your cap to the young quarterback, Eric Bieniemy, those playmakers in Dotson and Terry McLaurin and Brian Robinson. But the Eagles defense did not have a good showing yesterday. There's a little fly right there.
I could see it on the
screen. So, yeah, man, was that the biggest takeaway? And if so, how are you kind of feeling about the back and forth play of this team, right? One week against Minnesota, the offense scores 30+, but the defense allows Kirk Cousins to dot them to score almost 30 as well. Well, Monday Night Football, the offense struggles in the red zone, but the defense limits Baker and Tampa. Now you have this week.
Yeah, this week is kind of just continuing that trend of, both sides not showing up in every game. As you mentioned, it's been kind of unbalanced as the season has gone on. Even with the offensive success early on in the season, it was heavily based on the run, right? So that was another concern. Where's the passing offense? Yesterday, you get to see the passing offense. Jalen Hurts throws for over 300 yards. You get multiple touchdowns through the air. And A.J. Brown has one of his best games as an Eagle, right? But then on the other side, your passing defense was tumultuous. It was terrible. And then you saw at times you started to see that same trend from last season when the Eagles played the Commanders on Monday Night Football. They weren't gashing us in the run, but there were monumental runs in big moments where the Eagles just looked like they got bullied at times. And that was looking like a concern. I think what Marshawn Lynch said right there, he thought the second half was good. For me in this game, man, don't get me wrong. There's concerns about Sean Desai. There's concerns about the scheme and what they're doing with the coverages. What we talked about in the show yesterday, we tried to kind of defend Desai. It showed its face yesterday in that game, right? I also think there's a concern with Bradbury in the slot. Josh Jobe just he's not successful right now, right? No. And maybe that can change. Maybe it doesn't. And I don't know if we can afford to see if it can change. I almost feel like we have to move Bradbury back outside and try something else there in the slot. Yeah. And there's been a lot of talk about needing to upgrade the slot corner now that Avante's out, maybe an upgrade at safety or something. But my question to you, man, would you look at this situation yesterday just with the defense? Was that more of a Sean Desai thing, or was that more of a Eagles coming out super relaxed in the first part of the game, thinking that sacks are just going to fall in their lap, right? It's almost what it looked like to me. There was a few plays where Slay, I was questioning his effort on the plays. I don't know what was up, the jogging after a guy beats you. I don't like to see any of that. So there's part of me that felt there was a concern with effort on the Eagles side of things. But then also you do see the corners playing 10 yards back on a 3rd and 3, and you're wondering what the hell the call is here. Yeah. So I'm curious what you saw there as far as like Sean Desai scheme versus Eagles effort on defense.
Yeah, man, it's interesting because I do think there was a little bit, maybe not effort, but maybe taking this game for granted, maybe sleepwalking through the first half of this game and taking, the rookie quarterback, taking that offensive line, maybe less serious than they should have, right? And we don't know because there are veterans on both sides of the ball and they should be ready to go. And they're normally very well coached and well prepared. But at home, maybe they thought something different. I don't know. The thing with Desai yesterday and with the game plan, man, it reminded me a little bit of the Mac Jones and New England Patriots Week 1 game, where the New England Patriots and the Commanders yesterday didn't have great success running the football, but there were plays yesterday where Brian Robinson and these guys were able to burst through the line of scrimmage, where Sam Howell broke their backs running the football a couple times, just kind of off script type of plays there, escaping the pocket. And it kind of, the Eagles weren't able to make them one dimensional. They weren't bad against the run. They weren't terrible against the run yesterday, but they didn't eliminate that part of the game plan for Washington. And then when that happens and Desai's kind of soft coverage, soft package, right? They got the ball out of Sam Howell's hands pretty quickly. Now, they took a couple shots downfield, but for the most part, there was a lot of short to intermediate slants, out routes, different things like that, where Darius Slay, soft coverage, Josh Jobe, soft coverage, pick up a 3rd down. That was the concern for me yesterday. So when you're not getting home early with your front four, when you're not able to completely, like Tampa Bay, what were they doing against Tampa Bay's run game? 1 yard, 2 yards, lost it 2, 1 yard. That was completely taken away from the Bucs. The Commanders had a couple 9 yards, 13 yards, 5 yards type of runs where now Sam Howell can use that play action, boom, ball out. The Eagles don't know what's coming right here. So it was a little bit of a concern. They definitely have to fix it up. The last possession is where most of my complaint comes from, man. Yeah, the first half you walk through, you come back, but where did we pin them to start that possession? They weren't pinned. We scored. Oh, that's right. A.J. Brown had the 15-yard penalty.
Yeah, gave them an advantage.
They still had to go about 70 to 75 yards, I believe. That was the concern for me, to allow that rookie quarterback and that offensive line to push the ball down the field there and to ultimately come away I want to know what the coverage was. If that was players, if that was by design, where if you looked at the throw, Josh Jobs slipped, fell, whatever on the inside, and there were two more secondary players on the inside of like a bracket. There was no one towards the boundary.
It's almost like they didn't believe that Howe could make the throw or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but that was a lot of the time yesterday, just standing and looking around, looking confused in the secondary. And I mentioned Slay earlier. There's several times where I thought he looked confused. They were just going at Josh Jobe. It wasn't a matter of confusion. That was just a matter of them attacking him the entire game. But I do want to say, I think the Washington Commanders, looking back on it, they got a ton of like lucky breaks in that game, right? Like when you look back at it, like the Edmonds interception in the end zone that should have been caught, right? That ends the first drive immediately. And that's the difference.
Brian Robinson fumbles into the end zone.
Brian Robinson fumbles into the end zone. You look at the Vikings game, that ball goes out of bounds. That's the difference in those situations, like making those plays on defense. And I think a lot of that was just luck with the Commanders. It just always seems to go that way when we play the Commanders. And you showed the comment from TR talking about the NFL being way too obvious, man. I mean,
they were bad, man.
It was really bad. Like on the Philadelphia, the brotherly shove plays, all these penalties that are being made up now, but we just ignore the penalties on the other side of the ball. That's where it really bothers me.
I'll tell you what emphasized the bad officiating even more so for me yesterday was the broadcast. Like Daryl Johnson and I forget who the main guy was, but Moose they were bad to not even discuss what happened, man. That Zach Cunningham hold in the end zone when it was third down or whatever it was to get them off the field. They didn't even show the replay. They didn't discuss it, just moved on from it. The pass interference call on James Bradbury. Now this is big. Pass interference or defensive holding.
Or holding.
He did neither. He did neither. But if it's defensive holding, it doesn't matter if the ball is uncatchable or not. Whatever.
Right.
That's a penalty, move forward, first down. You call it pass interference. The ball has to be catchable.
Yeah.
Scotty, he threw the ball 18 yards out of bounds. And not a word was said about it.
Yeah.
Like as if Bradbury committed pass interference.
But you'll sit here and you'll question every single thing, right? How many booth reviews on an Eagles catch and then on a Commanders catch? Anything that goes in the Commanders' favor, right? Like, it is.
Both of them said the PI on Slay. I mean, don't get me wrong. There was at least video evidence of the Slay play, but it wasn't PI. It happens on every play. The slightest little jersey, I'm right here with you kind of touch. Not a pull, not a tug, just whatever, man. It was just really bad.
Frustrating because that's a signature Slay play. Like that is how Darius Slay plays. So if you're gonna call that, then you need to call it every single play.
How about the unnecessary roughness penalty?
Oh my God, man! Like, because my thing is
a first down.
You're so close to the first down. If Sam Howell just changes his direction and goes forward for an inch, then we'll be sitting there asking, why didn't that player finish the play? I can't remember who even got the penalty.
I think it was
Joe. Why didn't he finish the play? But no, he finishes the play. He hits him it's in play. Like that's what gets me, man. Anything that was on the line.
His 1 foot had just hit the white chalk when contact was made. He's a foot away from a first down marker on a crucial play. And you throw that flag, man. It's funny. I mean, they call a penalty on the Eagles for Dickerson being offside. The entire Commanders' defensive line was offside, and Payne's hand was touching the football before the snap. I know we're getting on Sean Desai, we're getting on all this. Man, with all of that, they still came away with a win. We can come back to defense. We can bounce back and forth if you want. Get back on the refs and the officiating and all that. But the offense, okay? So I thought Jalen Hurts had his best game of the season, so up to this point of the year, right? Him and A.J. Brown were unstoppable. He found DeAndre Swift out of the backfield for a couple checkdowns. Devontae Smith is a magician with the ball. Dallas Goedert picked up a first down in the red zone. There were a lot of positives from Jalen Hurts and this passing attack. The offensive line, I thought, was fine. They didn't run the ball with as much authority. I still have an issue with the play calling. And here's why. Here's why. Not even throughout the course of the game, but when it matters most, overtime. I think I texted you about this. I could be wrong. You're already in field goal territory. You're inside the 35, right? Inside the 30 for Jake Elliott. All you need is a field goal to end it. And and first down, you run it, pick up a yard or two. Great. Run it again. No, we're going to drop Jalen back. And he launches one under pressure, which you knew was going to be intentional grounding. You just risked the game. If that is not complete to Devontae Smith on 3rd and 17 or on 3rd and 17, 3rd and 19, that game is over. They're punting, and you know Washington's getting a field goal on that last drive. You risk the game to throw the ball for what effing reason? And then if you're Jalen Hurts, you have to have you're too intelligent. You're too much of a gamer to be under pressure and to just launch it 40 yards down the field and hope that the refs think AJ ran the wrong route. Because that's not what that was. That's not what that was, man. Now, I'm grateful that Smitty made the catch. Elliott's clutch. Jalen was clutch yesterday. That throw right here to A.J. Brown with a minute and 40 left to hope what would have been icing the game was a dart. He was great yesterday. But that play call, Scotty, should never be called in a million, billion, trillion years. The game is over. You run the ball 2 more times and kick a field goal.
I think for me, man, the problem with the play call, there's problems all around with it, honestly. I mean, you could talk about in, the prime spots of the game, how Gainwell is getting snaps over DeAndre Swift. Like, I don't understand that shit. Like, I don't understand it. 3rd and 11, you have a chance to push this to a 10-point lead rather than a 7-point lead if you get a first down. Yep. 3rd and 11, and you have the explosive players on your roster, on this offense, and you run with Kenneth Gainwell on 3rd and 11. I saw the reasoning from Nick Sirianni after the game. Yeah, you got it on a 3rd and 8 against the Buccaneers. Well, it doesn't mean that you do it again, because that's not a good excuse either. That's predictable at that point, right? If that's the same situation to you, then you're doing it in the same situation. That's predictable. But either way, I don't care. It's a bad decision. And then on top of it, Gainwell fumbles the ball. Could have been a monumental turnover where we don't get up by 7 points at that point. And he still gets in the game over Swift to end the game. I don't understand that shit. But that's aside from the point. It's the balance, man. It's like on our offense, the passing offense was great yesterday. I'm not going to sit here and hate on the passing offense, but it just feels like whenever we have the deep ball once or twice, that is it. Like, we are just launching that shit all game. No underneath, no intermediate routes. And then on the other side, we'll have other games where every single thing is underneath. Everything is screens. Everything is, underneath to Devontae Smith across the middle, but we get nothing downfield. Why can't we have a balance of everything? And I get it. It's a long season. Hopefully it all comes together. But that is my main complaint right now, is just the balance. And like you said, when you get to the end of the game there, you're in field goal position. You don't need a touchdown to win the game.
No.
This is not for betting purposes anymore. Like, we are not playing for betting purposes. We are winning the game. That is the purpose.
I know I'm complaining about
one to A.J. Brown.
That's
what is the thought there anyways, just to end the game on a bang with A.J. Brown?
You risk the game. You put the game in jeopardy. That's my problem. And I completely agree with the comments about, missing Shane Steichen a little bit and Brian Johnson not necessarily having the flow of calling a game down yet. I get that, but everybody and their mother should know when you're already inside the 30 or 35, you run the football and set up your kicker who can hit from 60.
Yeah.
You don't do anything to put that in jeopardy, and you did the one thing you couldn't do. An intentional grounding call.
That could have been very bad. Like amongst everything else that it
Scotty,
occurred.
it was worse than a sack. It was
The AJ Brown taunting.
You could have taken a 7 or 8 yard sack. It would have been half as bad as your intentional grounding.
Yeah. It's insane. It could have been majorly bad if that goes the other way. Smitty bails him out. Hurts bails the team out after a big
I agree
mistake.
with this. I have no idea what Rivera and Eric Bieniemy were doing there.
Yeah.
No
Against
idea,
a team
man.
that you know is better than you, you always go for 2 in that situation. This team, this team is better than you. And God forbid the Eagles get the ball first in overtime. Like, you're cool with that? Like, that was a horrible decision. And that's why Ron Rivera, I don't understand why he's still the coach. At the end of the day, they need to give Eric Bieniemy that head coaching job, because that man put on a master class yesterday. I will give credit where it's due. You talked about the quick pace of that offense. That's all Eric Bieniemy and knowing what to do. It looked very similar to the Super Bowl, man, where you had bunch wide receivers lining up. You had the Eagles secondary getting confused on that. So shout out to Eric Bieniemy. But yeah, the taunting call, I mentioned it there, and I mentioned it slightly joking because I know John Marks from WIP said, I believe he said something around the likes of, this is becoming it too much. It's enough with AJ Brown and the antics and everything off the field, the taunting and the arguing with Jalen Hurts. And I made sure to respond to this because we have been through this. Wide receivers are divas. We know that. That is the NFL, though. It's across the league. We've gone through this with Terrell Owens, and we watched this man walk out the door. We watched Deshaun Jackson get cut from the team because of off-the-field antics, right?
Look at Jamar Chase right now.
We need to stop. We need to stop right there. I get it. It will get fixed in-house. I'm sure something was said to AJ from the coaching staff like it's supposed to be. But us as fans and speculators, we do not need to sit here and put AJ Brown under the microscope. He is too good for that, man. There is a line, right? There's a line.
I agree.
We can't cross that line because we've seen what this path lies to, man. These
100%.
guys, I get it. You don't want to let them get out of control.
That taunting call was the ref saying, we tried to hand Washington the game.
Yeah.
And this just happened. Let me try one more time.
Yeah.
That wasn't taunting, bro. Listen, if he would have done what he did in Pittsburgh and pointed at the 3 dudes around him and stood there, taunting. If he would have handed the ball to the defender or threw the ball to the defender, taunting. He got up. He said something, but he was there for 0.2 seconds and ran off. Now, in the 4:00 hour, I was watching, I think it was Chargers Raiders on Red Zone. I watched the DB pass up break up a play on 3rd and long.
Yeah.
He got up, did the straps, then turned around, walked towards the receiver, and was barking at him for a solid 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And the refs just came over and broke it up. Now, which one is taunting, Scotty?
Right.
To just run by someone you made a play on and say something, or go back to the player and get in his face and say something?
And as a referee in this game, this heated, tight game, right? This game that is going down to the wire. It's close. Every play matters. Let's use some context when we're observing the game, right? As if Emmanuel Forbes has not ran his mouth the entire game as AJ Brown gathers 175 receiving yards on him. Let's not sit here and act like this guy wasn't sitting here taunting AJ Brown.
Right.
What was it on the QB sneak earlier in the game where they get into a shoving match because he's going in his face like this?
Yeah.
How's that not taunting? You have to.
How about on Sunday Night Football when Isaiah Pacheco got hit and then started doing push-ups after a play in the middle of the field, and then Mosley did the same thing the next play after he laid a hit on Isaiah Pacheco. Which one?
Make a big play and then go to the end zone and do a team celebration. And I get it. I'm not trying to pick on the defense.
I'm not saying those should be taunting. I'm not saying those should be taunting. I'm just talking about under a microscope. If you're comparing 1 and 2, Which one would you say is more so taunting?
Yeah.
AJ Brown wasn't. Well, let's also not forget, speaking of bad calls, I knew I'd come back to the refs here. Did Jason Kelsey's helmet just happen to come off on its own that one play? What are we doing, dude?
Yeah. You see Jalen Hurts' neck get turned this way, and that's not a face mask. Like, it is insane. It is insane.
Anyway, enough of the refs, enough of the defense. I believe they'll be okay. They have too many playmakers. Injuries are becoming a concern. However, man, I texted you about this, man, multiple times. Nicholas Morrow, might be something.
Yeah.
Nicholas Morrow was in the backfield for a sack 3 times yesterday.
Like a missile.
Nicholas Morrow, 11 total tackles, 10 solo. He's near the ball. Zach Cunningham led the defense in tackles, 13, 9 solo. Those linebackers
active,
finding the ball, man. And it's been a very, very nice thing to see after the Nakobe Dean injury, after Miles Jack retires, after we were already concerned about this position.
Yeah.
They've been really good so far.
Let me ask you this. Nakobe Dean comes back. Does he just get his job back with the way these guys have played?
I don't think so, man, because I would say, we all are hopeful of the ceiling of Nakobe Dean, but he hasn't done anything in the NFL, in practice. He hasn't stayed healthy long enough to show that he just deserves. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve playing time. Rotate him back into the mix, but he wouldn't be starting. Nicholas Morrow or Zach Cunningham wouldn't be, be on the bench to start the game.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with what Marshawn Lynch said there. Yeah, he's earned it, man. Just big plays. He's not only making plays, he's making big plays, right? He's not just in the right spot. He's blowing up spots. So that's the difference. These are game-changing plays.
Comes up with a sack late in the game, first of the year.
Yes.
Josh Sweat with a sack. Obviously, AJ Brown, 9 receptions, 175 yards, 2 big touchdowns. Jalen Hurts, 319, 2 tutties, 25 of 37. It was his best game. It was AJ's best game. And the Eagles came away with a W. So, we can sit back and we can complain about the defense. We can complain about the referees. We can complain about the red zone play calling or the end of game play calling. They do need to be better. I'm not saying it's not a work in progress. But at the end of the day, the Philadelphia Eagles are 4-0, one of 2 remaining teams left in the NFL that are undefeated at this point, along with the 49ers. And they have yet to hit their stride. And I think them understanding that they're not playing their best ball right now is huge as well. Like AJ Brown coming out and the guys coming out and basically saying no one wants to be playing their best football right now. It is huge. Like it's not an excuse. It's not to say, we deserve, like, we should be playing bad football, but no, there's no reason like the Eagles should be hitting their stride right now. The Eagles should be at the top of their game right now.
Yeah, because I want to ask you a question. There are some concerns, but are they really concerns 4 weeks into the season, right? Like Dallas Goedert. We've yet to see a Dallas Goedert game, right?
I would tell if I wholeheartedly had to tell you the 2 question marks or concerns, they would be the coordinators. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it, because those are the unknowns, right? Like Hassan Reddick didn't have a sack. He got one yesterday. People, are you concerned? No, I've seen Hassan Reddick. I've seen this movie before. Jalen Hurts, slow start. Him and AJ Brown arguing on the sideline. Are you concerned? No, I've seen this movie before. I've seen what they're capable of. I haven't seen Brian Johnson for more than 4 weeks. I haven't seen Sean Desai for more than 4 weeks. So those would be the quote-unquote concerns and the things I need to continue to see progress and growth from, because I don't know anything about them yet. But the players, the personnel, no, I'm not concerned about them at all. They're one of the deepest, if not deepest, roster in the National Football League.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that.
Yeah.
There is part of me, man, I will say there is part of me that feels like we took maybe one set of the training wheels off of Jalen Hurts yesterday. He had a great game through the air. I do agree. I think he had his best game of the season, but I still think there is some room there for even better, just more put together offensive drives, more consistency throughout the game. And it just speaks to the talent level of the Eagles. It's not to say that, oh, that was a bad performance by the offense. They didn't turn the ball over. They didn't give up a tremendous amount of sacks, anything like that. They ran the ball pretty decently, I would say, not to the usual, but pretty decently in that game. But I still think there's just meat left on the bone there. There's still room to grow. There's one specific moment early on in the game where he just didn't let it fly. I think he may have took a sack or maybe ended up throwing it out of bounds.
Yeah.
Didn't let it fly to Smitty. Just throw it. He's obviously one of the best jump ball receivers in the NFL. You throw it up to AJ, throw it up to Smitty as well. And also on the ground, man, there was a one-on-one. I know Shane Half, I think he pointed it out. Yeah. I'm not as big as far as that being a detriment in any way, but it is a little bit of, why can't he just get past that smaller defender? But I do see the other side of it as well. You don't want him getting injured, but I think there's just more to come of this offense. You saw a little bit of the dump off action with DeAndre Swift across the middle. I think you can get a little bit more of that. I saw times where Smitty was going across the middle. We go down deep to AJ Brown, which I get it. We're gonna try to get those big plays, but I think once again, to my point earlier, just kind of balancing that out. But you mentioned it; they're not at their peak form in Week 4. There is room to grow, and I do think there's meat left on the bone there for them, and they know that, right? They recognize that they'll be better. Any concerns, man, going into this Rams game? I know we'll get into it on pregame, but just the secondary and kind of what has been happening over there in LA with the rookie receiver. I don't want to say his name wrong. Nakua, is that his name?
Nakua, yeah.
Nakua, yeah. He's balling right now.
Yeah.
They may get Stafford back.
Yeah, is Stafford hurt? I saw that
he had a hip pointer, so I don't know how serious that is. A hip pointer is what I was
told. Have to keep an eye on that throughout the week. Obviously, if Stafford's out, they have no chance, like zero. I already don't think they have a chance. Eagles fans are going to take over that stadium, so it's not really going to be like it's a West Coast road game for this team. They play well against Sean McVay in his tenure. Now, previously that was always Doug Peterson versus Sean McVay, but they play well against him anyway. And the Rams lack talent, right? I mean, cool. You beat the Colts. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, congrats. I'm not worried about this game right now, Stafford or not. But to your point, when you're looking at what Puka Nacua is doing through the first 4 weeks of the season, it's kind of ridiculous, man. But I know the Eagles like to keep Slay on one side. I would try to get Darius Slay or James Bradbury on him as much as possible. I don't think Kupp's going to be back. They activated the 21-day window, but I would imagine it's going to take him at least 2 weeks from that point to
I think
get back to where he wants.
I think Sean McVay was being highly optimistic with his comments regarding Cooper Kupp. It would be a kind of a miracle, especially if Stafford isn't ready to go. Why bring Kupp back, and risk him as well? You can just wait another week,
right? But no, man. And what I was looking for on Twitter while you were making a great point, as Martian Lynch says, the Reuben Frank pointed out that like we're all not negative, like we have these major concerns, right? And we're getting down on the team for doing this, doing that. The Eagles are the first team, and I forget how long, it might be 1988 or even further, to make a Super Bowl appearance and then start the next year 4-0. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in this day and age of football, and they're doing it. And they're doing it not playing their best football. They're doing it missing some key pieces around the defensive unit.
Yeah.
Cam Jurgens got hurt yesterday, might miss some time.
Yeah. No, that's a great point, man. I think that just speaks to the standard, right? The standard that we have set, the expectations that have been set with this team. And to be fair to them, they are 4-0, man, and just look to get better each and every week. And that's all that we can ask of them as of right now. And one of the only 2 teams in the NFL that are undefeated to start the season. Our arch nemesis, the 49ers, Brock Purdy, lighting it up. Christian McCaffrey
it's
yesterday.
A win-win. It's a win-win this upcoming Sunday, man. We get the Rams, and then the Niners and the Cowboys play on Sunday Night Football. So
Nice.
whatever side of the road that falls on, whether Dallas gets their ass beat and it's like, well, see what happens when you play this contender, or Brock Purdy falls to that defense. Oh, look at that. When he actually plays somebody formidable, because the 49ers, people love to point out who the Eagles have played and struggled against this year. The 49ers have played me and you so far this year.
Who would you rather lose that game? Or who would you rather win that game? Off the top of your head.
I think I still rather have the Niners win. My hatred for Dallas is obviously years and years deeper than just the past couple months of hatred for the San Francisco 49ers and their fan base. But also, and I believe the game might be in San Fran. So if Dallas was able to march into San Fran on primetime and win against that defense and do what they have to do, like, I'm already expecting San Fran to be a roadblock, like to be competition to us in the playoffs. If Dallas beats them, now I have to take Dallas more seriously. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Not that
I don't take Dallas seriously, but we sit here and say, "Oh, just wait till you play San Fran." Well, what happens if they beat San Fran? Or what happens if Dak looks like he did yesterday against San Francisco's defense? Well, now I got to worry about both these teams come playoff time. Whereas if San Fran handles them, I could sit back and go, "Oh, they were who we thought they were. Let's worry about San Fran in the NFC Championship game."
Yeah, no, that's fair, and that's basically where I'm at as well. It is in San Fran, so for the Cowboys to go in there and beat the 49ers, I think that would speak more to them than necessarily the 49ers per se. So I'm with you. We'll obviously break down that game on Turf Talk, but some big matchups coming up, I would say. If Stafford plays, it's a decent matchup. I still would take the Eagles by maybe 2 possessions, but it's a decent matchup with an upset capability. But no, great W by the Eagles nonetheless. Obviously, we have to dig into them each and every week, so it's not always going to sound the greatest. But no team is perfect. They're not going to be perfect every week, and we're going to hold them accountable to that standard. But nonetheless, 4-0, high mark in the NFL. And they have to be at the top of your power rankings right now, right? We saw the Dolphins get brought back down to earth after a 70-point performance. And then the 49ers, obviously, they're the only other undefeated team, so they're right there in the combo. So it'll be interesting to see how this next week plays out. But I know we want to get into some of these other Philly teams today, man.
Yeah, man. That team right in red above our heads right now. It is another Red October, man. And this time around, Scotty, we get to start it in Philly tomorrow, 8 p.m. at the Bank. The Marlins come to town. And obviously, compared to last year, we were heading to St. Louis. A lot of unknowns. This year is so different, man. Yeah. Because if you go back to this point of last year, they squeaked in the final series of Houston, winning 1 of 3. You were the third wild card. There were no expectations to make a World Series run. You knew this team was talented. You knew this lineup was loaded. You knew you had Wheeler and Nola, but there weren't expectations to go win a World Series.
Yeah.
This time around, with having that run, seeing what life looks like in Philadelphia at the Bank come playoff time again, getting that energy back in the city, the additions in the offseason, the way they played since June 1st, there's much, much greater expectations to this run, and they start at home, man. And I'm super, super pumped to see what this ballpark looks like tomorrow night and the next 2 to 3 nights against the Miami Marlins, because, you ask me, we'll get into it, catch you up a little bit. Obviously, you were away in Hawaii for quite some time, not seeing much baseball. But don't get me wrong, the Phillies and the Marlins are definitely an interesting matchup. The road for the Phillies goes through the NL East. Obviously, if you beat the Marlins, then you have the Braves. They have not matched up well with Luzardo, who's starting game 1 for the Marlins so far this season. I get all that. This is a team with no playoff experience coming to the most raucous ballpark in the major leagues. Good luck. That's what I'll start out by saying. Good luck.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, because as we get into this series, I want to learn more about the Marlins side of things here. What is the biggest worry with the Marlins team coming into Citizens Bank Park? I've seen a lot of talk about the left-handed pitching staff that
Yep.
the left-handed pitchers that they have in their staff, and the ability to throw off Schwarber, Harper down the line, so-and-so Stott. Is that the biggest concern to have with this team, or do you see anything else there?
Well, I'll compare it to them and the Diamondbacks because those were the two options, right? Coming to Citizens Bank Park. And what I'll say my biggest concern is compared to the Diamondbacks is not pitching, it's the lineup. And I don't think this lineup is dangerous, so to speak, by any stretch, but they have a lot more guys that can beat you in this lineup than the Arizona Diamondbacks do. The Arizona Diamondbacks would have been able to, not in game one, they would have had to throw a bullpen game one, but they would have given you Zach Gallen and potentially Merrill Kelly in 2 of the 3 games. Now, don't get me wrong. The left-handed pitching, they have not hit Jesus Luzardo well. Braxton Garrett gets to game 2. They're good. They're not Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly. Okay. Arizona's offense is lethargic. They are sometimes allergic to scoring runs. The Marlins have guys that can beat you, man. They came into Citizens Bank Park earlier in the season, obviously not postseason baseball, but they came in earlier and beat the shit out of the Phillies. I believe swept the Phillies. I was there for 2 of the 3. You have the NL batting champ in Luis Arias, who's going to be there. You have Jorge Soler, who does have World Series experience in pop. You have Jake Berger, who they acquired at the deadline. You have Josh Bell with playoff experience and pop at the deadline. You have guys like Jazz Chisholm, who are high energy. Brian De La Cruz. They have guys 1 through about 7 that can get to you a little bit. So it's going to be very interesting to see if Wheeler and Nola in games 1 and game 2 can get the swings and miss that they need against those power bats, against Luis Arias, man, because you do not want that dude starting off an inning on second base and kind of giving you trouble. But that's my concern compared to what the matchup would have been. The left-handed pitching, the Phillies have hit it pretty evenly all year compared to right-handed pitching. The only thing is Topper has to give the young guys the chance. You can't come out this series and say, Bryson and Brandon, you're on the bench because of left-handed pitching.
That's exactly what I was.
You got to let those two play.
Who's your starting lineup against this Marlins team, given Luzardo started?
My starting lineup, every game of the postseason, lefty or righty, I do not care, is Kyle Schwarber 1, Trey Turner 2, Bryce Harper 3, Alec Boehm 4, Bryson Stott 5, JT Realmuto 6, Nick Castellanos 7, Brandon Marsh 8, Johan Rojas 9. That is my starting lineup. You take the training wheels off of Johan Rojas. He's a difference maker. He's a difference maker in the field defensively. It allows Marsh to play left. Your defense is so much better with those two in the outfield together, man. You have to deploy that. Not to mention he's a base stealing threat. He's shown that he can come up clutch late in games. You have to do that, and you have to allow Brandon and Stott to play, man. It would be ludicrous to say I'm going to throw out Edmundo Sosa and someone else simply because of left-handed hitting. And that's not a knock on Sosa. Sosa at the plate has been much better than I expected this season compared to when they acquired him last year at the deadline. He's hitting like $170 when he came over from St. Louis. He's much, much improved compared to that point in time, but that has to be the everyday lineup, man. That is your most talented, best lineup you can throw out there. And I'll also throw you this. JT and Nick, 6'7". Why? I like Nick protecting JT. JT has struggled over the last couple months. He's had his streaks, but he struggled at home a lot more than he struggled on the road, which is very weird. Yeah. But putting Nick behind JT might allow JT to see some more fastball, some more pitches over the plate that he can put in play and do something with, compared to if you just said Nick's better, Nick goes 6, JT goes 7. Now Marsh is behind him. Now JT doesn't have that protection behind him.
No, I hear you. And with the Stott and Marsh thing, that's why I asked that question, because it just feels like at this point they're way too good to have rotating based on the starting pitcher. Yep. They're guys that should be in the lineup every day. So with that in mind, who do you believe for the Phillies throughout the playoffs as a whole, not just this Marlins series, but as we look at their path throughout the playoffs, who needs to step up the most for this team based on what you've seen over the last month or so? It's a loaded question.
No, I feel you. Step up and X Factor, they're different. Step up, I'll go with Aaron Nola, man. I think Aaron has stacked 2 really good starts in a row together to close out the season. Obviously, he pitched in the close in the clincher, obviously back-to-back years. And he looked really good. He's got more movement on his fastball finally. The all-speed stuff's coming together. His curveball's coming together. And he's getting a lot more strikeouts, a lot more swings and miss. That's the thing. Can Aaron keep the ball in the yard, limit those home runs that we've seen for whatever reason come to bite him throughout this regular season? He's the difference maker, man. If you have the 1-2 punch of Wheeler and Nola with the depth of all the other guys you have in the bullpen and Ranger and Sanchez and Lorenzen and Walker, that's huge, because if you have to basically skip past Nola because he's such a wild card, that affects how this rotation and this team is going to be able to run this postseason, this postseason sprint, right? Aaron Nola has to step up, man. And let's be honest, it starts right away, because the Phillies are favorites. They should be favorites. I'll get to predictions later. I think you know where I'm going with it. But game 1 against Luzardo could be the more difficult game. If for some reason they were to find themselves in a whole, survival mode game 2, in comes Nola, man, and he's going to have to outdo Braxton Garrett in game 2.
Yeah, no, I hear you, Nola. That has to be one of the major concerns just for the Phillies side of things going into this postseason, right? Aaron Nola. It's going to be interesting. What's your like ideal path? I know we're getting a little bit more futuristic with the questions here, but what's your ideal path through the postseason versus what you think is more likely?
So you have the Marlins first round. You're locked into the Braves round 2, which I hate. I hate that the MLB does not reseed. I think it is super, 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 super dumb. So we play Atlanta round 2. We can't do anything about that. And then obviously it is the Diamondbacks and the Brewers round 1. Winner of that plays the Dodgers. You would hope whoever wins that series can beat the Dodgers. I'll say the Brewers win that series. My road would then be Atlanta, Milwaukee, play Milwaukee, get to the World Series. And then, I mean, you can have your pick over there, man. You got a team like the Astros who are yet again heating up. When they were in the 6th wild card spot into the last weekend and then won their division. They have a bye. They just know what to do this time of year, man. They're loaded offensively again. The bullpen has like a sub 2.5 ERA over the last month. Dusty Baker's pushing all the right buttons. You have the Astros over there. I'll say for fun, if there's a way the Baltimore Orioles could get to the World Series, that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that would be dope. They've had a great season.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting, man. I'm looking forward to getting into more specific matchup-based talk tomorrow night, but I'm excited, man. We saw Embiid with the Red October hat on today during media time or media day for the Sixers. The excitement's building once again, and I'm excited to see what that place is looking like tomorrow night.
I'm with you. I am with you.
Oh
I asked Sean this the other when I had him on last Monday, and I said I'll ask you this too. And how I kind of opened up with the fact that like last year there were no expectations. We were just so happy to be back, right?
Back in the postseason.
This crowd is going to take it to another level. And that's what I think people need to realize, especially this first round series against the Miami Marlins. Like, they're formidable. They have a good staff. They have a deeper lineup than the Diamondbacks do. They're a division rival. Anything can happen. Don't get me wrong. And I know we love to pat ourselves on the back as Philly fans and take credit. Trey Turner, the ovation, we embrace it. We take that credit, right? This is truly the one place you don't want. I don't think outsiders quite understand what you're going to walk into. Yeah. Like Jesus Luzardo can do whatever he wants in the regular season. Tomorrow night is something he has never seen before in his life. I promise you, it's going to be something he's never seen before. Jazz Chisholm, when he steps up to bat, is going to be facing something he's never heard before. Good luck. I'll
You've
say
had
good luck.
You've had an entire year of the Phillies basically pandering to the fans
Hold
about
on.
how crazy the playoffs were last
You
year.
have had an
It's
entire
gonna be a
year.
madhouse.
You have had an entire year of the same team coming off a championship loss, the city soccer team coming off a championship loss, and the city coming off a Super Bowl loss. This pent-up aggression. Now, I know there are some people there that are going to be there that are just purely baseball people. I promise you, 90 to 95% of the folks in that ballpark are fans of a majority of the teams in this city.
Yeah.
All that pent-up aggression and
Yeah.
emotion of the last 9 to 12 months of losses is ready to explode tomorrow night. Add on the expectations. Add on the fact that we are
Yeah.
top 5 favorites to win the whole thing. Yeah, forget about it. Like, just Atlanta is going to run simulation games with pumped up crowd noise. First of all, you absolute nerds. Spencer Strider, I pray to God Spencer Strider has to pitch in Philadelphia in the NLDS.
Oh, man.
Did you hear what he said?
No, give me hip.
You
man.
didn't?
No, I did not.
I think it was John Boy Media. It was like a social media platform, like a podcast that interviewed Spencer Strider on the field by himself a couple days ago. Scotty, they asked him if he could make one rule change, if he could have one thing different, if they could make one rule change, what would it be in the MLB? And he said no fans. He said 2020, no fans. Maybe the upper bowl, but we know you're watching. We don't need the noise. I wonder what Spencer Strider is referring to.
I did not see that. That's insane.
Maybe that Game 3 shellacking he took at Citizens Bank Park
is
in the NLDS.
man.
You absolute dork. First of all,
what are you playing for?
First of all, that is a huge FU to your own fan base as well.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm an Atlanta Braves fan, I'm like, what the what, dude?
You don't want me at the game.
Right.
Like, okay, you don't want Phillies fans at the game, but you don't want fans at the game.
Right. When you're home, you don't want your fans at the game?
That's interesting. I get you don't play for fans per se, but what are you playing for? Just people to watch on TV? I guess. I don't know. Usually the great players thrive in, enthusiastic and exciting environments. But
they do.
I guess.
And that's why we will see if Spencer Strider is a great player or not, because he can post all the strikeouts and all the numbers and all the 98 mile an hour fastball swings and miss he wants to in the regular season. Come do it on the road in the postseason and lead your team to a World Series. Charlie Morton out at least through the NLCS. One man short in that rotation. Spencer's the ace. Oh, okay. Bring that mustache over here.
Little perv.
And we'll see what happens. But yeah, man, I'm ready to go. We'll be live tomorrow night breaking down game 1 of the NL wild card. I was about to say Eagles, Phillies, Marlins. Game 1, me and Scotty, probably around 6-7 p.m. I'm also recording with Connor Thomas to break down this postseason run and this series as well at 3 o'clock. So keep an eye out for that here on the YouTube channel. Last team to touch on today, man. Media Day. Yeah. Gots to love Media Day. Joel Embiid, obviously, sporting the red October hat, like you said. Those new ugly Sixers jerseys. Why, Scotty, did we have to put the red around the number and letters? Am I wrong, or does it look awful?
It's just what is it worth? That's the big change. You know what I mean? That's what we were waiting for. I don't know, man. It seems like every year almost they get it wrong. Other than the Spectrum jerseys, I mean, every single year they try to do some type of update to these jerseys. It's just it's getting played out. The red edition is ugly. It was unnecessary. You could have just kept those the same. Now I'm concerned about what the city editions are going to look like.
Oh, dear God.
Oh, my God.
Every NBA team city editions are horrible.
Yeah, for the most part. Aside from the ones where they actually go into the retro logos.
Right.
Aside from those, they're absolutely horrible. And it just shows, once again, the Sixers, they're never in touch with the fan base
No, they're
because
tone deaf.
they never
They're
want to bring
100%
back
tone deaf.
the Allen Iverson edition jerseys. I mean, you want to change the blue jerseys, change them to that, change it to the Sixers, right? But no, it was interesting just seeing those jerseys put out there. Embiid had on this like awkward beanie for Red October. But I will say Embiid's words, everything that he said, his answers to the questions should be a lot more reassuring for you if you're a Sixers fan that was kind of questioning where he was with the organization based on this offseason. He said it was an A-plus offseason for the Sixers. A-plus. Like, I'm not on the side where it's been like a just monumental failure of an offseason, but an A-plus, bro? Like, I don't know.
Scotty,
might be a little bit of pandering there.
Are we sure he wasn't trolling?
He took the Troll out of his Twitter name, so
he did. But then after the Drew Holiday trade, he tweeted, "This offseason has been a lot of fun, LMAO." And Daryl Morey liked the tweet. I am so confused by this team. This is basically where I'm at, and I'll go back and forth with you about some of the additions in this roster as well. But
yeah,
so obviously Damian Lillard this past week traded to the Milwaukee Bucks. They give up Drew Holiday to Portland. Portland reroutes him to Boston. Boston has now acquired Porzingis and Drew Holiday in the same offseason to go with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. They have given up, though, Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, and Malcolm Brogdon over the course of this, and they lost Grant Williams. So they've lost 4 key pieces to their rotation and their starting lineup. But, you know, we can get into all that. Basically, my point is Milwaukee is probably the favorite to win the entire thing. Boston got better. And what did we do? And that's kind of where I'm at with this team. Coming off of a postseason run where you and I and a lot of other Sixers fans finally thought it was different. We were 5 minutes away, 5 effing minutes away from advancing past the second round for the first time in forever, for the first time in the Joel Embiid era, and it was going to be different. It fails and it crumbles to the ground. Then you have all the drama with James Harden. He doesn't report to media day. We all knew that was coming. He still wants out. He still wants to trade while all these other teams are getting better. I don't know what to make of it, Scotty. And the thing that frustrates me the most is the rest of this team isn't bad. Yeah. And I would ask you, of the offseason additions, Patrick Beverley, Mo Bamba, Kelly Oubre Jr., you still have DeAnthony Melton and PJ Tucker, you Jaden Springer, Paul Reed. This is probably the deepest Sixers team of the Joel Embiid era in terms of role players. Maxey, hopefully another elevation. Hell, if Harden's not here, Tobias Harris will probably elevate back to close to 20 points per game.
Yeah.
But they're still just missing something, aren't they? That's what it feels like, man.
Yeah, it does feel that way, and it's obvious that you're missing James Harden, and if he would just decide to play with the Sixers, that would probably be the best route of circumstances for the team as a whole and for himself, honestly, at this point. But we know that that's probably not going to happen, and so until we figure out what is going to happen with James Harden, I think the only hope that we can have, I do agree with what Embiid said, as long as he's on the team and he's healthy, there's a chance, right? There's a chance for them to win something. I will agree with you that the Celtics and the Bucks have clearly elevated themselves above the Sixers. They were already probably above the Sixers anyways. We needed the Sixers to improve. If the Sixers made these additions to Harden and Embiid, you probably put them up there with those two teams. I still do, just because the rest of the East, to be fair, the rest of the East hasn't really done much either. You look at the Miami Heat, who were in the NBA Finals last year. They won the Eastern Conference. They didn't add anything, right? They didn't add anything to the puzzle here with the Miami Heat. The Cleveland Cavaliers, they added, minuscule pieces like a Georges Niang from the Sixers, different pieces there. So I don't think anybody else outside of those top two teams did anything spectacular to necessarily move themselves ahead of the Sixers here. But what I will say, the Sixers remaining a top three team in the East heavily relies on Tyrese Maxey, not only elevating, but like elevating to an all-star level player. He has to elevate to that level. And to be an all-star level player in the Eastern Conference, where you have a mixture of guards, now you have Dame Lillard, now you have Donovan Mitchell in this mix, right? You're going to have to average close to 23, 25 points per game this season. And the ball's going to be in his hands a lot more. He's going to have to control and play make this season. So there's going to be a lot more pressure on Tyrese Maxey's shoulders, and he has to prove that he's able to hold that weight on his shoulders, man. You look around the organization, whether it's Joel Embiid speaking, whether it's Daryl Morey, the two people that you look at as the leaders in this group, even Nick Nurse, the second piece that they mention other than Embiid is Tyrese Maxey. That is what this franchise is banking on right now.
Yep.
Daryl Morey's career, his line right now, he's banking on Tyrese Maxey becoming an all-star level player right beside Embiid and hoping that he can be that guy that shows up in the big games in the playoffs as well. So that is the one wild card. We know Maxey's going to be good, right? I think we can almost guarantee he's going to average 20-plus points per game this season as long as he stays healthy. But is he going to be able to elevate his game to the point to make up for a loss like James Harden? And you added a bunch of pieces mixed in here that can also help with that, right? Patrick Beverley, Kelly Oubre, they can get on the scoreboard. Beverley can lead.
I like the Mo Bamba edition as well.
The Mo Bamba edition. I like the Danny Green edition, man. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, Danny Green.
I actually like Danny Green edition. I get it. It's an older team. The worry comes in with injuries, depth, getting through an 82-game season. That's always going to be a factor. But I would also raise those concerns for the Celtics and for the Bucks. While they have better rosters, they have better starting lineups than the Sixers right now. What happens if one of those players goes down?
Right.
Kristaps Porzingis is an injury-prone player. Drew Holiday's missed some time. He's 35 years old. These are all question marks. At the end of the day, I'm going to give them the same benefit of the doubt that I give the Sixers as far as staying healthy. And that's why I say they are the better teams. But all it takes is for one thing to fall the Sixers' way, and they're right back into contention. It is hard to believe that without James Harden
100%.
or getting something back for James Harden, that they have any chance at a championship, though. I'll be completely honest there.
I agree. And that's why I'm down on this team. And just the total like aura around this team, the energy around this team is way off because
kind of a joke.
Right. Exactly. The way you ended last season with those expectations to come back and kind of troll that Morey trolling the fan base, Harden doing what he's doing, and Embiid's been trolling throughout the offseason and making comments. It's like, what are we doing here, man? Right.
Laughing stock.
But what I will say, you breaking that down with the Bucks, and you talk about Boston, and we alluded to the fact Boston lost 4 pieces added to older injury prone. Milwaukee moves on from Drew Holiday, a key piece of that championship team, but obviously it's, Damian Lillard. It almost does feel, though, like the roles are slightly reversed. For how many years have we said, I will take the Sixers starting 5 over any of the other starting 5s? But what has always been the Achilles heel? The depth, the bench. The Heat have guys coming off their bench that can score. The Bucks, the Celtics are doing this. The bench is getting outscored 46-9, right? It's crazy. It almost feels reversed. I would take Boston starting 5 over the Sixers. I would take Milwaukee starting 5 over the Sixers. But is that bench almost good enough now? Is that bench better than theirs now?
Where I'm at, man? I'm at this point where if you could get almost anything of substance back for James Harden, they're in the mix. Like that's where I'm at with this team, and maybe that is where the criticism on Daryl Morey comes into play. But no, I'm with you, man. You could even have the argument as far as flipping sides on coaching. What were the detractors for the Sixers in previous years? Doc Rivers, we would say. We would say Mike Budenholzer is the better coach than Doc Rivers. The Boston, Brad Stevens was the better coach. They have Joe Mazzulla now, and Milwaukee replaced their head coach. I can't even remember who it was off the top of my head. It was a guy from Toronto, wasn't it? Yeah, it was Adrian Griffin. Yeah, Adrian Griffin is a replacement in Milwaukee. He might be a great coach for all we know. I don't know.
Right.
We know Nick Nurse is a championship level coach. So you would say the Sixers
and
maybe
the coaching staff that he's put together. I agree, man. Everything else is there. It's
There's
just
something off though.
Right. It's it's like the James Harden shadow. It's like something else. It's like a supernatural thing following me around. Like I get the like it's like it won't leave my back, right? It's like there's something off about the team. But
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Who was your favorite addition out of the role players that they have added this offseason?
I mean, that's tough.
Got Pat Bev, Danny Green.
It's between two for me. Pat Bev brings that leadership, that dog, that toughness. He's obviously got the podcast at Barstool with Roan, who's a Philly fan. He's getting implemented in the city. You know, you got the Pat Bev thing, who can play a role off the bench for this team. Defensively, we know what he can do as well. He's another guy that can handle the ball too. But then you had the latest edition of Kelly Oubre for cheap, who obviously comes from losing teams. But he said, you want to talk about a guy that said all the right things at Media Day today? He said some things that were eye-catching, man. Because he basically said, like, you know, you hear all the talk and you hear kind of the negativity surrounding Philadelphia fans. And he goes, man, I come from, you know, teams that never had a chance, teams that had zero expectations citywide. The fans didn't care. He goes, I want the fans to care. He goes, this team hasn't won a championship, but they win basketball games. And so for him to come in off the bench potentially as a microwave scorer, dude, he can average 20. I'm not saying he's averaging 20 off the bench for the Sixers team, but if Kelly Oubre Jr. can average 15 points off the bench, 14 points off the bench for the Sixers team, that's huge. Would you start him or would you bring him off the bench? Because I'm especially with Harden out, I can't start PJ and Tobias next to Joel again with Harden off the floor. I can't do it.
No, that's a great question. Off the top of my head, it would be between him and Danny Green. I think who I would start. Danny Green, I'm not giving him a ton of minutes, but I think I might just start him at small forward.
Just to
balance it out. Give you a guy who can hit shots, play defense. I do like the idea of Oubre being kind of that microwave off the bench, and that's kind of what leads me to say Danny Green to start over him. But I'm with you. I'm not starting PJ Tucker, man. He's not starting for my team. He just can't. There's no playmaker there that makes him ultraly valuable that can outweigh his offensive deficiencies.
What do you think of this from Brett?
Maxey, Melton, Tobias, Reed, and Embiid. Yeah, Paul Reed was the forgotten one in that conversation. So, yeah, I would be open to that as well, especially with the talk around Paul Reed. He's been working with Nick Nurse. We know what Nick Nurse can do with guys like Paul Reed that are just aggressive, hit the backboards, get rebounds, play defense. And he seems to have been working on his jump shot over the offseason. So there's a lot of hope there with him. So if
this is your five off the bench, you're looking at Pat Bev, Oubre, PJ, Danny Green, Mo Bamba's 5. That's 5. You're 10 deep there. That's not including a guy like Jaden Springer who could take a step up from last year. That's 11. That's not including for whatever reason they brought Montrezl Harrell back. I hope Nick Nurse isn't seriously contemplating putting him in.
Well, he tore his ACL, so he's done.
He's out he's done for the year?
Yeah, he's done regardless. I'm pretty sure he either tore his Achilles or his ACL.
Okay. And then they also have didn't they sign Petrusev to an NBA deal?
Yeah, the power forward. I don't
Furkan's not in my rotation. Furkan is nowhere near my rotation.
Furkan, he's still on the team somehow, but no, I think that would the 4 guys you mentioned would be my 9. I would have 9 guys in my rotation, and I don't think we have to worry about Nick Nurse, doing the Doc Rivers thing where he does like the all bench lineups, that type of stuff. He's more known to get the most out of his starters and out of the guys.
Well, I'm at 11 regularly. I have 11 guys.
Who are the last 2?
If that's your starting lineup off the bench, you would have Pat Bev, Danny Green, Kelly Oubre, PJ Tucker, and Mo Bamba. That's 10.
That's
Jaden
10.
Springer, if he gets playing time, is 11. And you're not counting Harden playing or what you're bringing in for Harden.
That's deep. Yeah, that's deep. I don't know. That's interesting. Maybe that means more of the case for PJ to go with Harden as well, just to make room for what you would get back for him if they do eventually get a trade done. But yeah, 10 or 11. I would agree, though. At least 10, right? Jaden Springer would be my guy that's probably on the fence there. But he's shown signs this offseason, in the little spurts that we've seen him in the past. He's shown signs to be a quality player. They need athleticism, youth, and energy, right? That's a big thing we talked about for years. Paul Reed can bring that. Maxey can bring that. D-Melt can bring that. And then Jaden Springer. Oubre, he's definitely a microwave guy off the bench. But yeah, that's what I was saying, Brad. He doesn't generally have a deep rotation, so I would probably top it at 10. And there's going to have to be a decision probably between Pat Bev, which
we also might be putting too much faith in Danny Green getting playing time.
Yeah, maybe a little bit too much thought into him having anything left in the tank. Reggie Bullock is a guy that is apparently getting waived or has been waived by the Dallas Mavericks. That was a guy that I would like to have on this team, honestly, if you could even get rid of one of these players for him. Man. But I don't know, man. These additions would be great. It would be a great offseason, adding Nick Nurse, that coaching staff, mixed with these additions of veterans that have experience, along with guys like Oubre who have shown the ability to score the ball. It's just that big black hole called James Harden on this roster that really I guess what it is, man, is as much optimism as I can have as a Sixers fan. How optimistic do you have to be to believe that you can operate with a black hole as big as James Harden on this roster and still compete for a championship? Right. You know what I mean? Like, it's really hard for me to believe.
I also think we still have another black shadow, a black cloud of the second round collapse. Like, we've completely just somehow moved past that. Like, we have to go through another regular season, get Embiid healthy to the finish line, win a series, and then get back to the drawing board of this is the hump. Like, that's still there as well.
Let me ask you this. Does this regular season matter to you at all? Does the seeding in the postseason matter to you at all as long as they make the playoffs?
No.
At this point?
No. Why would it? I think the Miami
They don't win at home anyway,
right?
In the playoffs. They don't win at home. So, home court advantage doesn't really matter for the Sixers, at least.
No, seeding doesn't matter to me. I don't think it nearly matters much to anyone nowadays either. But not just that. It's like the problem is there's still going to be a top 5 seed. Like that's my that was kind of my thing before. Like you for some reason you and I have talked ourselves into this morning of this team, fighting as a top 3 team in the East. Whatever, maybe they will.
Top 5, though, I would say.
My problem is we're like in plot. We're right here, right? It's like, all right, are we gonna kind of be, could we be bad without Harden and go through this kind of little retool year and blah, blah, blah? The problem is this team's still going to win around 50 games. They're still going to be a top 4 to 5 seed in the East.
Yeah.
And then they have to match up with those 2 or 3 teams that are always in their way. And we're back to drawing board.
Yeah. So I guess looking at it in a sense of if the Sixers were to play the Miami Heat, for example, right? For some reason, we always get the luck of the draw with them, right? Doesn't it feel like the Sixers are almost better built to beat a team like that than, say, if they do have to go at a full-strength Celtics team or a full-strength Bucks team with star power, right?
Well, and you want to know
what we talked about earlier, the depth is a big thing here.
Oh, I'd much rather play the Heat with the losses they have had this year, this offseason, and their lack of kind of retooling that. Not to mention, for some reason Jimmy turns it on and whatever happens, they're still the least talented of those teams. So, of course, I'd rather take the least talented and see what happens. But the funny thing to me, and I already know it's going to happen, it's what's today, October 2nd? October 2nd, 2023. I already know who we're playing in the second round. The one team we haven't faced in the playoffs in the Joel Embiid era, we will get the year they trade for Damian Lillard. We are going to play Dame and Giannis in the second round. You already know it. We haven't played them any of the other years. We will play them this year.
Right. We can't get the Boston Celtics without like the Sixers killers and Malcolm Brogdon and Marcus Smart. We're gonna get the Milwaukee Bucks with Dame and
100%.
Giannis. And I know there's we didn't talk much about that trade, but there's a lot of talk about like the defensive liability that Dame can be. That's true. I do believe that in a sense, but when you have Brook Lopez and Giannis behind you, is that really like a concern with that team? Like, health is the biggest thing for the top teams in the East at the end of the day. Because like I said, one injury to the Celtics, one injury to the Bucks can level the playing field a little bit. Same thing with the Sixers. One injury to them, to one of their stars, and Embiid or Maxey, even Tobias, could take them, out of the top 5 in the East. So
it's funny to me when people get worked up about the depth of the Bucks, like they don't have the best duo in the association now.
Yeah.
They still have Chris Middleton. Still have Bobby Portis.
Chris Middleton that started to look more like himself towards the end of the season last year. Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about here? But no, man, it'll be interesting for sure.
The vibes just aren't right with the Sixers, man. That's why it's kind of, I'll be honest, it was kind of like dreadful, right? That media day is already here, and I can't just sit back and enjoy Phillies baseball.
Yeah.
Playoff baseball.
Well, it's dreadful because the Harden thing hasn't been resolved yet. And what I'll say is this. We can wrap it up here.
Hypotheticals.
If you want to be annoyed with Daryl Morey for how the James Harden situation has played out, if you think he's to blame at all, obviously he played some part in what has gone down, even though Harden is 90% of the problem. If you want to be annoyed with Morey and the Tobias situation and the crumble cookies and the trolling and all that, if you want to be annoyed with his lack of aggression early on in free agency and you don't love the bench, okay. But I need everybody to stop freaking out in terms of when other teams in the East trade for guys like Dame and Drew Holiday and the Sixers didn't get them. I need you guys to understand something. And again, you can blame Morey for maybe not having this, whatever. They don't have the ammunition to compete with these deals. The only way Drew Holiday was coming from Portland back to Philadelphia was through a 3-team deal, sending Harden to LA where he wants to be and allowing LA to move some of those younger and draft picks to Portland. We received we received Drew. LA wasn't interested, apparently. That's it. That puts a pin in it right then and there. Everyone, I can't believe Daryl Morey. Dude, look what they sent to Portland. They sent 2 firsts. We don't have that.
2 starting caliber players.
Malcolm Brogdon.
Yeah.
Outside of Embiid and Maxey, maybe would have been the 3rd best player on the Sixers.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have that.
I don't know if it's possible. Is it possible at all for the Sixers to get Malcolm Brogdon, or is he like I don't know how that works with being traded, because I thought maybe Drew wouldn't even be able to be rerouted, but can Malcolm Brogdon be rerouted to the Sixers? Like, I know we're like grasping at straws at this point. Like we just want it resolved. But
I don't know, man. So I think Brogdon can be rerouted. It's something with cap. It's something where I forget what the terms were, where he can't be used in whatever.
And it's like, what do we have that could be equal?
Yeah. Lost Scotty we'll see. He'll pop back in a second. He's a little there he is. There he is.
I don't know what happened. It didn't even show my
just a little delayed, a little frozen.
But I was just saying, like, we're just grasping at straws, man. I don't know. We're trying to fix the situation. The problem is nobody wants Harden. we don't want Harden. Nobody else wants him either.
And you would think that the delusion would take a back seat for a second and say, "Oh, wow, maybe I was wrong." He apparently in his mind he's so very coveted in LA. Yet LA has drawn the line at Terrence effing Mann for a trade for James Harden.
Hall of Fame James Harden.
You ain't all that valuable over there, brother.
This man is out clubbing. God, man, just out clubbing again with the Maury is a liar signs in the bottles and the slow motion videos. I mean, I'm just like, does this guy want to play basketball?
No,
he might be over basketball. Like, I don't know.
Here's what I would do. Okay. I'm not trading him unless the right offer comes. You can continue to party. You can continue to spend your money. You can continue to go to clubs and bottles and do everything you want to do. And then I'm going to find the shit out of you.
Yeah.
Every week. Every single week. And we'll see how long you think you can keep pulling your shit.
He's going to get fined for missing media day today.
Yeah.
He's going to get fined.
And then he's going to get signed. He's going to get fined if I'm the Sixers. And the second he comes crawling back,
No, we're trying to trade you.
Yeah. Remember?
Honor your request. Yeah. Loyalty.
No phones in pockets at practice. Oh, man.
Oh, man.
Second time in 3 years.
It's all right. We'll get the vibes right tomorrow with the Phillies playoff.
Yeah, I don't even know why I care. I have a team that's about to go win a World Series. I have a football team that's 4-0 coming off a Super Bowl appearance that's about to go win a Super Bowl. I don't care. I don't care. Okay?
Because we love the city, man. Yeah. We love the teams.
Be back in a few weeks.
Successful. But we got a few weeks before that pain can actually kick in. So
yes, sir. But all right, guys, that is going to wrap up this Monday edition of the Faithful Fanatic Show. I will be recording with Connor Thomas over on this YouTube channel. Subscribe to the DSM-Philadelphia YouTube channel for that interview talking Phillies postseason, March to Red October. And then Scotty and I will be live on DSM Pregame Live, Phillies Marlins Game 1 tomorrow, 7 p.m. on the YouTube channel exclusively. Have a great rest of your Monday.
Peace, everybody.